question first. Why do you feel like fueling is important for your sport? Just throw it out, raise your hand. Any ideas why it's important?
So your body can feel good, so you can perform good.
Yes. Feeling good, performing good. Anything else?
Recovery.
Recovery, good.
Maximize energy.
Energy, yes. Ideas? Okay, named a bunch of them. First one I put on there is injury prevention. So again, soccer, really prone to getting lots of injuries. Some of them can help be prevented by nutrition, making sure you're fueling properly, getting enough of the certain types of foods that we'll talk about can actually reduce your risk of getting injured, and those recurring injuries like stress fractures and overtraining type injuries, so making sure we're fueling appropriately for that. Energy, somebody said, and that's a big one, so we're going to again talk about those foods that give us the best energy and focusing on those and what they do for your body, both on and off the field. And then achieving body composition goals. So maybe you have a goal to get faster, get stronger, lose body fat, gain body fat. It could be anything like that. Nutrition is a big piece of that. So obviously the weight room is a big part of gaining muscle, but if you're not eating enough or properly, you're not going to gain any muscle regardless of how much you're lifting. So you have to be eating adequate amounts and enough of those carbs and proteins to help you build that muscle. Improve brain function and reaction time. So soccer, very brain heavy, right? Like we have to think, we have to be sharp all the time. Some days where you just don't feel like things are working, or you're able to look quick enough, like you might not be fueled properly. So carbs, again, we'll talk about it, but carbs are your biggest energy source for your brain, and if you're lacking that, then it's hard and challenging to stay sharp for an entire 90-minute game. So brain is a big one. Recovery rate, somebody mentioned that. So not only what we're eating, but our sleep, our hydration, mentally, physically, all of those things kind of fall into sports nutrition category of making sure that we're prioritizing that nutrition. And then habits after sport. So I don't know how many of you want to play after college, but even when you're done playing soccer, whatever that's going to be, it's important that you know how to cook and what to eat and provide for your family or whatever it is. Like you can learn these things because, as you know, nutrition's not going anywhere even after you're done playing soccer. And then the last one is improving gut health, overall well-being. So maybe you have stomach issues or whatever it is, and those intolerances or things like that. So this can overall make you feel better, like you mentioned, to perform better. All right, so a couple things that I talk to all the teams about are some non-negotiables that you must do for sports nutrition. So the first one is eat before training. This is huge. So I don't care what time your training is, if it's at 6 a.m., you need to have something before you go to training so that you're not feeling dizzy, low energy, fatigued, passing out, all those types of things. So again, the only source of energy that you get is from food. So making sure we're not skipping a meal right before we go train is going to be really important. After training, yes, that's also very important for recovery and muscle building and those things. But this is a non-negotiable. If you're going to miss one or the other, you need something before you go out there to give you some energy. The second thing is prioritizing nutrition, sleep, hydration, all of those things. So you guys are all really good athletes. Obviously, you're in college playing soccer. If you want to be great, you're going to start to prioritize these other things as well. So it's the little things that can help separate us. I'm sure Cole has said this a million times. Whether it's physical, mental, all those things are very important. And if you want to be great, then you need to prioritize those things. And so kind of creating that throughout the team is going to be important. And then that's the last one, is creating that culture on the team. So no food shaming, no body shaming. As we said, I'm an eating disorder dietitian, so take this very seriously. Utilize your resources, ask for help, ask your coaches, ask your trainers, email me, whoever. Has anyone ever met with a sports dietitian before? No. One person? You might know some of this stuff. So don't be afraid to ask. It's not a bad thing if you're like, oh, let's eat, or what should I have after practice? Somebody can give you some advice as to what to do. So I know Cole at least is giving you some nutrition education, which is giving you that nutrition culture. So whoever the leaders are, continue to be like, hey, did you get breakfast? Hey, you need a snack. Hey, grab your recovery, those types of things to make it a priority. All right. So I like to throw this out here because every time I meet with an athlete, the first thing they ask me is, what kind of protein powder or what supplement should I be taking? And that's the last thing I'm going to try to figure out when we go through building a meal plan and making sure you guys are eating often the way that athletes are prioritizing nutrition. The first thing is their supplements. They're big on that. The timing of their eating is super important. Then the micronutrients, macronutrients, and how much they're actually eating. As a sports dietitian, I want to flip that. So the very first thing, the most important thing, is are you eating enough? You guys are doing tons and tons of activity, right? You're still growing, developing all those things. So you need a lot of nutrition to help you do that. And that's my biggest thing. Like, I don't even care what you're eating as long as you're eating enough. That's better than not eating enough. So if you're only eating fruits and vegetables and you're not getting enough energy, that's going to be actually worse than if you're eating whatever you want and you're getting enough. So that's the first thing. And then the macronutrients and micronutrients. So we're going to talk about the macros today, which I'll quiz you later. But those things give you the energy foods. The micronutrients are like your fruits and vegetables, giving you vitamins and minerals, antioxidants, and things to help use those other types of foods. So making sure that those amounts are adequate. Once you have that down, then we can talk about timing of really optimizing performance, like how many minutes before you train should you grab something to eat, when should you eat right after, do you need something during, all those types of things. And then I'm going to ask you about your supplements. So once you're eating enough, choosing the right things, have the timing down, and you still feel like, okay, I need more, I'm struggling with my protein intake, then I would be like, okay, this is a great protein option for you. Not saying supplements are bad, but I'm saying many times you can get that from food first, and then we'll use those other things to actually supplement the diet with the for. It's not the main portion of that diet. Okay? Any questions so far? So today I want to talk about macronutrients, using that to help us build the performance plate, and then timing of eating, and then we're going to end quickly with hydration as well. We have time. So first, our macros. You guys heard of this word before? Yes. So these are nutrients you need in large amounts to function, to perform, to do your best on the field, off the field, thinking, walking, talking, all of that. Can anyone name one of the three or all of the three? Nice. Carbs, proteins, and fats. Yes, got them all. So we're going to go into what each of them are doing and then some examples. So first, carbs. Does anyone know what they're doing? I might have already mentioned it briefly.
Energy.
Energy, yes. What kind of energy? Short term, yes. Very short term, very quick, easy to digest type of energy. So this is your body's preferred source of energy. As an athlete, you need lots and lots and lots of carbs. So I know there's millions of diets out there on social media and TikTok and what you're hearing from your friends and family of, oh, you don't need that many carbs, like go keto, like whatever it is. No, athletes need a lot of carbs, and it should be part of your meal plan all the time. So they're broken down into glucose, which is the simplest form of sugar in your diet. So if you eat an apple, if you eat a piece of bread, whatever it is, they're both going to break down into glucose. That's giving you that energy for your body and for your brain, as I mentioned. Your brain's main source of energy. So making sure you're getting enough for soccer is super important. Here's some sources. So all of our grains and starches, bread, pasta, rice, tortillas, crackers, all of that good stuff. All of our fruits, good source of carbs. Awesome bananas over there. All the fruit section gives you carbs. Starchy vegetables is like your potato, your sweet potato, even like corn and peas, squash, those types of things can give you some carbs. Dairy is another good one. So milk, cheese, yogurt, ice cream, all that gives you carbs. Athletes specifically need about half of their overall calories in carbs. And it should be included in all your meals and snacks, which you're going to see. So before, during, after, it's all going to have carbs in it. Rather than like trying to track how many calories you have each day, it might be overwhelming to you. Instead, we're going to talk about just focusing on like how to build a plate, so you know like when I'm at the dining hall, I need to make sure I have this many carbs on my plate. Or if I'm at Chipotle, like I need to get a good source of all those things. So using these strategies, not to make you think that you have to go home and meal prep chicken and rice and broccoli every day. That's not what I'm saying. Wherever you are, we can make sure that you're getting the right amount of macronutrients to support your activity. It's a little visual for you. You've probably seen and know what carbs are by now, hopefully. All right, next one, protein. Athlete's favorite. What is protein doing for your body? Repair, recover, good. Muscle, muscle, muscle. Everyone loves talking about muscle. Yes, it's doing lots of things. So it's the building blocks for your body. They're broken down into amino acids. So they're just a big long chain of amino acids. There's lots of different ones. But it also helps build enzymes, hormones, muscles, as we talked about. It's a long-term energy source as well, so when you run out of all those carbs and easy energy sources, you start grabbing from other places. So again, that's why pairing them together is going to be important. Also can support immune function, so if you're in college, you get sick all the time, it's going to be helpful for that as well. Growth and development is another big one. So I know you're in college, but some of you are 17, 18 probably. You're still growing and developing on top of trying to build that muscle as well. Food sources, all of our meat, all of our fish, all of our seafood is a good easy source. Also our beans and lentils, that can be like a sneaky easy one to kind of increase your protein intake without having to eat more meat. Or if you don't eat meat, that's a good source. Dairy as well, again, so the milk, cheese, yogurt category gives you some protein. Eggs, nuts and seeds, tofu, soy products, and then supplements like powders, bars, protein shakes, drinks, all that good stuff. So how much do you need? Athletes require about 1.4 to 1.8 grams per kilogram body weight, so this is more than non-athletes, surprise. If you have your phone out, you can actually do this math real quick. So if you know what you weigh in pounds, if you know your kilograms, that's easy, just multiply by that. But if you don't, if you know your pounds, divide it by 2.2, that gives you how much you weigh in kilograms. And then multiply it by 1.8. Someone throw out a number so I know you're doing it right.
Your weight divided by 2.
So I had it right.
No, I was trying to guess your.
Perfect. So that,
Multiplied by
what was that?
1.8.
Yes, per day, yep. And great question, like, that's throughout the entire day. I don't recommend you have 150 grams at one time. So instead, research is showing more and more, having it throughout the day consistently is gonna make your body utilize it a lot more, and then being super intentional around your lift time, your practice time, training, all that kind of stuff. So, we talked about the recovery and the rebuilding of the muscle, that's important directly after you work out. But even when you're on an off day, like having protein consistently is going to help retain that and then help you prepare better for when you're going to train next. Yes.
Do you have like a recommendation for maybe like when to cap your protein for one meal? In terms of like is it okay to get 70 grams of protein for one meal? Is it okay to get 120 for one meal? Like
Yeah. I would say I would try to focus more on like a full day. Everyone's very different, so it's not just like okay, after 100 you can't do it. So depending on your muscle mass, your weight, your height, all that kind of stuff. But generally, you're not going to be able to use more than 80 to 100 grams at a time. And then it will just get stored as fat, basically. So if you're just overloading protein or overloading the creatine, and you're like, why am I gaining so much weight? It's probably that it's just getting converted into fat and being stored in your body and not being utilized as it wants to be. So the key is getting that good ratio of the carbs, the proteins, and the fats in your diet to make sure that you can reach your goals, whatever that is, but also perform your best and feel your best. Injury, intense training also increases needs. So I know you guys are like middle of preseason, right? So your needs are pretty high. So even if you're getting a little bit more than that, it's not going to harm you or anything. You're probably going to use it actually. A big misconception, which I don't get into a lot about injury, but when you're injured, you actually need more protein and your energy needs go up. So you think, oh, I'm not training, I don't need it as much. Fine. Eating more is going to help you recover faster and get back out there faster. So really making sure, like, if you have a fracture or a ligament tear or something like that, getting like an extra protein powder of some like collagen or something could actually help you recover faster and not skipping meals and snacks because you know you don't have to train. So that's a side note. But so that's your protein needs. Again, getting it consistently. So when you're waking up and having breakfast, instead of just grabbing a granola bar and a piece of fruit, those are both great carb sources. Like trying to get enough protein in the morning. Sometimes that's challenging for athletes. Usually lunch and dinner is a little bit easier, but trying to prioritize building that habit throughout the day. Questions with protein from us? Next one are fats. What are fats doing for our body? It's always the trickier one. Yeah.
They like lubricate our joints and stuff.
Maybe. I would say more like hydration. But yes. Any other guesses? There's no wrong answers. We're not lacking.
I like that. You were like with your
With him.
They get stored.
Stored energy, yes, that's one. What else? We kind of take these for granted in our body, so they're very needed. One for your brain. So your brain's made up of fat and water. If you don't get enough, you get like dizzy when you stand up. Have you ever had that? Where you're like, whoa, might be you're not getting enough fat. All your cells need fats to survive. It helps with hormones. It helps regulate your body temperature. All like the functioning of your body. So if you have a super, super, super low body fat percentage, that can actually be dangerous as to where the functions of your body stop working. So I know everyone wants to be as lean as possible. Sometimes that's not always the answer. There is a range, that's good, but it's not always lowest as possible is the best. So sometimes that can actually help us feel better, not get sick, all those types of things. It also helps with like cholesterol levels. Not super worried with you guys' cholesterol levels at this time or age, but maybe in the future. It also absorbs vitamins, so we have fat soluble vitamins. Anyone name one? You know it. Just throw out a vitamin.
B12.
Throw out another one.
Magnesium.
Vitamin
C.
Nice. Vitamin A, vitamin D,
Vitamin C.
vitamin E, and vitamin K.
Skips over.
That's water soluble, yes. So vitamin A, D, E, and K. Those are fat soluble vitamins. They can't absorb in your body unless you have fat in your diet in your body. So if you're not eating any fat and you're low in vitamin D and I give you a vitamin D supplement, you're just going to pee it out and get no benefits. So the fats you're eating actually grabs onto those vitamins and absorbs it in your body. Just a little fun fact for you. Food sources include cooking oils, so like whatever you put in the pan to make your eggs or vegetables or whatever. Avocado, fish, salmon's a really good one. Dairy again, so you've heard me say dairy 3 times. They have carbs, proteins, and fats, so I'm very pro-dairy dietitian. Cheese, yogurt, milk, eggs, nuts, and seeds as well. Athletes are going to consume about 20 to 35% of their overall calories from fat. Unsaturated fats, trying to lean more towards those. So there's lots to talk about with fats that we're not going to get into, but there's saturated versus unsaturated. Have you heard of those things? Okay, so basically, the unsaturated fats are like your liquid oils, like what you're putting in the pan and those things. Your saturated fats are like your butter, your mayonnaise, thicker type things. But anyway, so I'm not super worried again about your fat intake as long as you're not intentionally removing all fat from your diet. You're going to see in the next part, we're going to actually build some plates. There's not a section on the plate designated towards fat because fat's in a lot of things. It's in your meat, it's in your dressings, those types of things. So again, as long as you're not purposefully avoiding all fats, you're probably getting about how much you need. If you're eating a ton of fried food, you're probably getting a little too much of what you need. So having a good balance in there. But that's why there's not going to be like a portion on the plate designated towards it because it's in a lot of things. And we live in America, so there's fat everywhere in our foods. Here's a visual of our healthy fats. Alright, so now using that to help us build those athletes plates or performance plates. Does anyone before I get started have questions on carbs, fats, proteins? Any sense so far? Okay. So, important to remember, your calorie needs and your nutrient needs are constantly changing. So that's why it's so challenging to plug your numbers into a system and say you need 4,000 calories a day. Okay, well the next day you might not, and the next day you might not. So it changes a lot. So depending on the season that you're in, it's going to change a little bit. Depending on your playing time, depending on injuries, depending on lots of different things. Stress, all those things can increase or decrease your needs. So your in-season plates, your game day plates might look a little different than your off-season plates and your off-day plates. So even within the season, one day you might need a little bit more carb, and the next day you might need a little bit more salad and fruits and vegetables on your plate. So we're going to talk about when to do those types of things. So first, we're going to balance your plate with carbs, protein, and color, which is fruits and vegetables. I'm just going to say color. Again, you don't see fat on here; it's in the food. Second part, adding dairy, fats, fluids, make the food taste a little good. Be creative. It doesn't have to be the plain chicken and the rice and the broccoli because you're going to get really sick of that and not enjoy it. I want you to enjoy your food as well. Again, I've worked with eating disorders, so I'm very passionate about this. You can eat what you like and make it work in your meal plan. So if you like obsessed with beef, some people say like don't eat red meat. We can make it work. I don't want you to eat red meat every meal every day, but we can definitely incorporate that. There's lots of good things in beef as well. That was just one example, but there's lots and lots of different things. So wherever you're from, if you have a certain cultural food that you like we can make that work. It doesn't have to be boring and plain all the time, okay? So use this to help you wherever you are. Again, if you're cooking, if you're out to eat, if you're provided meals, all those types of things, to make sure that you have all the different components on your plate. All right, so on an easy training day, so this could be like a walkthrough type practice, or you're just stretching, maybe the day after the game, maybe an off day, something like that. What do you think half of your plate is going to be?
Carbs.
Nice. Color. Good job. So, we need less energy on these days because we're not doing as much. Color is not providing you most of your energy, so that's why we want a little bit more of that on these days. So, let's donate those things together. That's weird, but that just gives you a visual. It can be anything. It can be fresh fruit, it can be frozen fruit, it can be a smoothie, it can be a salad, it can be steamed broccoli, whatever you want, as long as you're getting some color on your plate. And this is for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Every meal that you're having, I want you to try to get some color on there. On an off day, you can have more color on your plate. Aim for about half of that plate. So again, if you're typically like, I'm going to blow up on the protein and skip on my veggies because they don't provide me any energy, might try to change that a little bit on these easier days. On the hard days, you're going to see it's different, but on these days, increasing that color is going to help you. That leaves protein and carbs as the other quarters. So lean proteins is what we want to aim for. So fish, chicken, eggs, beef. If you're picking like a chicken or picking a beef, you can look at like the fat percentages. Trying to pick a leaner option is recommended. So like a ground beef is typically higher in fat versus like a lean cut steak would be lower fat. Chicken thighs are going to have more fat on them than chicken breasts, those types of things. Okay, and it doesn't have to be every day, every time, but in general, trying to increase your lean proteins. If you don't eat meat, you can do legumes, nuts, dairy, eggs, all those types of things. If you eat fish, that's a great source of lean protein as well. Grains and carbs on an easy day, about a quarter of your plate. So if you're somebody that loves carbs and you're eating bread and pasta and rice and all those types of things together, on an easier day, maybe scale back on that and try to increase the color on your plate a little bit. I understand we just went over fruits are also a carb, but I'm going to keep that in the color section, and I want you to get some sort of grain as your carb on your plate. So that could be bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, quinoa, all those types of things. Okay. And then hydration. We're going to get into it a little bit later, but obviously that's a huge priority. Water, electrolyte drinks, whatever you like to drink, dairy juice, those types of things. And then you can add in those fats and flavors like we talked about. So adding avocado to things, adding cheese, adding oils, spices, herbs, like make it taste like what you like so that you're not dreading every single day. Make sense? Okay. So as we increase our training, our plate's going to look a little bit different. So this is a moderate training day. So this is one practice per day, a normal practice, I would say. You want about thirds of your plate. So now you're going to see as you're increasing your training, we're increasing your carb on your plate because you need more energy, and that's your body's preferred source. Protein stays consistent. So even on your off days, yes, you need about a quarter of your plate protein. On your hard days, you need about a quarter of your plate protein. We'll talk about that later as to intentionally doing it around fueling as well, but this is for your like breakfast, lunch, and dinner plates, okay? Fruits and vegetables actually start to get a little bit smaller as we're doing more training. So this is why your pregame meal is never a Caesar salad with chicken on it, because again, you're not getting much energy from that. You get some energy from the chicken, but not carb. So we're increasing our training, we're increasing our carbs a little bit. When we get to a hard day, so this is game day, this is 2 days preseason, those types of things, in-season plates, you want half of your plate to be carbs. They're probably giving you some sort of rice, chicken, or pasta, or something like that before you're going to do a sandwich. Those things are carb heavy. There's a reason they're doing that. It's because it gives you that energy that you need to perform. It's short-term energy, so making sure we're getting some protein with it as well is important. So your pregame meal is going to be well in advance of your game, 3 to 4 hours beforehand. You're going to use up all those carbs, so we're going to talk about eating again before your game, but that protein is going to last a little bit longer into the match. And then fruits and vegetables, you just need a little bit. So maybe it's like green beans or a piece of fruit or something like that. Because again, there's many purposes for fruits and vegetables, but energy is not their biggest strong suit, okay? is it's a pregame meal type of plate. Here's another way to look at it. As we're increasing our training, we're increasing our carbs, and we're decreasing our color. Protein is going to stay consistent regardless. Got it? All right. Questions? Okay.
For like the night before like a game or a hard like 2 day, how important, like what would you recommend for the plate, like a game day plate the night before?
I would say yes. Yes. So, I mean, depending on what time you're playing, but if you're waking up and playing early, definitely the night before, making sure we're doing the harder game day type plate. If you're playing later in the day, you're probably going to get some sort of pregame meal that's going to look like that. But yes, and if you're waking up early for like a lift or a practice, getting something the night before can actually help you in the morning feel a little bit better, because I don't expect you to wake up at 3 in the morning and make a gourmet breakfast. I'd rather you get sleep, that's important, and then have a good solid snack or meal before bed, and then another meal. So yes, good question. Yes.
And then how much time before we actually go to sleep? So like if we're doing the game day plate and we have, I don't know if when the competition is the next day really matters, but like how close to falling asleep should we be eating, or how far away from falling
Do
asleep?
you mean like a full meal or a snack?
I would say food.
A full meal. I know there's tons of things that say like don't eat a big meal before bed because then you're gonna be digesting while you're sleeping. You can digest while you sleep just fine. Your body's able to do both of those things at the same time. So I would say depending on your schedule, do you rest? Like you're probably just not gonna feel great if you have a giant meal at 10 and go to bed at 10:30. But again, it's if you're able to do that, your body's gonna be just fine. So I know your schedules are probably the biggest challenge there. So I would say like 2 hours before bed is fine. If you're eating it right before bed, you're gonna be fine. But you're probably just gonna feel bloated or something when you lay down. Snacks though, I definitely recommend a good solid snack with carbs and protein before bed. That can help you continue to repair, build muscle while you're sleeping.
I have a question.
Yes.
So like a lot of us, especially once the school year starts, and we don't have a ton of time. So could you talk a little bit, or like your thoughts on like meal prepping?
Yeah. So if that's what you have to do to make sure you're getting what you need, definitely do it. If you're someone that's like, after I see the same meal 4 days in a row, like I can't even eat it, don't do it. I don't think you have to meal prep. I think meal planning is a better word for it. So like me, for example, I'm not nearly as busy as you guys are. I used to be, not anymore. So now I like to cook 3 to 4 times a week just to like switch it up a little bit. In college, yeah, I might have made a bigger meal and just ate that throughout the week because it's practical. But I would say have a plan for your day. So if you know, like, I gotta wake up and go to lift, and then I'm going straight to class, and then I'm going straight to practice, and then we have a team meeting, and then I'm going to bed. I don't want you to be stranded with, okay, I had a bar for breakfast, I skipped lunch, now I'm grabbing a banana before training, and I'm starving before bed because I haven't eaten enough throughout the day. Instead, like, be a big boy, pack a lunch, make a sandwich, go to Chipotle, whatever you have to do, find time to do that, and like plan before you leave, so you know you're not stranded without a meal and you have just a bar in your bag. So I would say kind of schedule around your schedule. So if you, again, if you know you're gonna be super busy and that's what you have to do it. If you know like money's tight and I don't want to go to Chipotle every night, do it. Like you can do those things and make it a priority. So yes and no. You can do it or you don't have to, but as long as you're getting something consistently, that's the most important. Yes.
I've seen a lot of things about like how the carbs will be, like, especially like pasta and bread. Like bread has like a lot of sugar in it. A lot of breads have a lot of sugar, and then like some of the pasta, like the flour isn't great. Do you think it's important to like spend the extra money to have like healthier carbs, or is it not that big?
I think no, it's not that big of a deal. So athletes, you need a lot of sugar. You need a lot of carbs. The average Joe doesn't need as much sugar or as much carbs as you guys do. That's gonna actually benefit you a little bit. So if you're always gravitating towards like a chickpea pasta, you're just getting less carbs. You need more carbs in your diet. So I would say, again, that's challenging because on social media and everywhere you read, like there's something different about nutrition. You could find an article that supports and hates a certain food, backed by science each time. So that's why it's it's challenging, instead, like, really focus on, one, what do you like? If you're, like, forcing yourself to eat chickpea pasta and you hate it, why, right? Like, you can get sugar from fruits, you can get sugar from your pasta, you can get sugar from your rice, like, there's so many different purposes of each food, so I tend to say, like, what's the purpose of that food that you're eating? If it's an easy day and you're trying to increase your fruits and vegetable intake, maybe you do try like a lentil pasta to do that. If it's a game day, I don't want them giving you lentil pasta on that day. So again, I think it's very hard to kind of sift through like what to listen to and what not. But I can't stress enough of like how many carbs athletes need, and that's actually going to help you a lot to utilize those other things and let them do what they want. So if you're just ramping up your protein intake and you're not eating enough carb, your body's just converting your protein into glucose in your body. It's challenging for your body to do that, so it takes a little bit longer, but it's able to do that. And so you just use those other sources of energy that aren't carbs, and your body just converts it a little bit harder. So adding that carb source just allows that protein to do what it wants to do and not have to be converted into that glucose. Sense? Anyone else? These are good questions. Okay. You'll have more opportunities to ask. Alright, so the next part is timing. So I think this is really, really important. Once we can get you eating enough, eating the right ratios on your plate, now when do we have those plates? We've already had some questions like that. Maximize your performance in your recovery with the timing of your meals and snacks surrounding activity. I think when you're really intentional on timing around your schedule is when you can really optimize nutrition. So yes, 3 meals is really important each day. Having snacks, eating consistently, all those things are important. But again, when you're lifting once and you have 2 practices a day and you're traveling and all those things, it's going to be more important to intentionally fuel around that training session rather than just having breakfast at 8, lunch at noon, dinner at 6. Like, you're not a typical person right now, right? So we're going to talk about when to do all those things. So before you exercise, before any sort of activity, this is key to your performance to enhance your energy levels, which we talked about at the very beginning. Endurance is another huge one. And then brain activity. So as we mentioned, those carbs are really important, but we use them up really fast. And so continuing to eat is going to be important. So beforehand, I recommend about 3 to 4 hours before is when you want to have that full athlete's plate that we just talked about. So before practice, you want to eat carbs to fill up your gas tank, but you also want about a quarter of your plate to be protein and a quarter of it to be carb. That's like on a game day or a practice day or whatever. How soon coaches, do you know how soon you eat your pregame meal compared to games?
I think for us is we don't necessarily provide a pregame meal every time unless
Okay.
we're maybe traveling.
Yeah.
So it's more up to the guys.
Up to them. Okay, well perfect, here you go. So I recommend 3 to 4 hours before. You can do the math as to when you want to have a big meal for your game. Again, it should be carb heavy. About half your plate should be carbs, but you need those other things as well. And then, again, before, 30 to 60 minutes before, I want you to have another snack of just carbs. So about 30 to 60 more grams of carbs because, again, you've used up a lot of the carbs that you ate in that pregame meal just surviving and sitting here. You're using up carbs, thinking, talking, all those things.